There's a moment most Canadians have. You land a stable job. Maybe it's government. Maybe it's a big bank, a hospital, or a school board. You've got benefits, a pension maybe, direct deposit every 2 weeks like clockwork. And for a second, it feels like you've figured it out. But here's the thing nobody warned you about. That feeling of safety, it might be the most expensive thing you ever bought. Because right now, in 2026, the rules of money in Canada have quietly changed, and the people who feel the most secure are often the ones falling furthest behind. My name is Sai, and I spend a probably unhealthy amount of time trying to understand how money, jobs, and investing actually work in Canada so that you don't have to go through it the hard way. And before we get into it, nothing I say here is financial advice. This is just to help you understand how things actually work. If you're making big decisions with your money, it's always worth talking to a professional who understands your full situation. All right, let's get into it. Let me take you back. Think about the advice you grew up hearing from your parents, from your teachers, maybe from a well-meaning uncle at a family dinner. Get a good education, get a stable job, don't take risks. And honestly, that advice made sense for a while. In the 1980s and 90s in Canada, a stable job with a decent salary meant you could afford a house, raise a family, retire with a pension, and live a comfortable life. The formula was simple, and it worked. So an entire generation passed it down, and then their kids passed it down again. The problem is, the world those rules were built for doesn't exist anymore, not even close. And yet millions of Canadians are still living by the same playbook, getting the stable job, paying into the pension, trusting the system, assuming the plan will work out. Here's the uncomfortable question. What if the safe choice is actually the risky one now? Let's talk about something real for a second. Wages in Canada. If you look at average Canadian salaries over the last decade, they've gone up on paper. And governments love to point at that number and say, see, things are getting better. But wages aren't everything. Real wages are what matter. Real wages means your salary after you account for inflation, after you account for how much more things cost now compared to before. And when you look at that number, a lot of Canadians are effectively earning less than they were 10 years ago. Their paycheck is bigger, but what that paycheck buys has shrunk. Here's how to think about it. Imagine you made $60,000 in 2015, and today you make $72,000. Sounds like progress, right? A $12,000 raise over a decade. But if a house that cost $400,000 in your city in 2015 now costs $900,000, your raise hasn't kept up, not even slightly. Your income went up about 20%, but your housing cost went up over 100%. That gap, that's the trap. And it's not just housing. Groceries, rent, utilities, car insurance, everything around you is compounding upward. But your salary, even if it grows slower. So here's what this creates. It creates a situation where working hard, being responsible, and doing everything right by the old rulebook leaves you running in place. You feel stable, but you're slowly falling behind. And the dangerous part is you don't notice it right away. It sneaks up on you. Because month to month, it feels fine. It's only when you zoom out, when you look at where you are after 5, 10, 15 years that you realize something went wrong. Now, here's where it gets really interesting, because knowing this logically isn't enough. If it were, everyone would have already changed their approach. So why don't they? This is about psychology. Specifically, it's something called loss aversion. Humans are wired, deeply wired, to fear losing something more than we want to gain something. Losing $100 feels psychologically about twice as painful as gaining $100 feels good. Think about what that means. When someone says invest your money, your brain doesn't hear opportunity, it hears risk. But when someone says keep your money in your savings account, your brain hears safety. Even if that savings account is paying 3% while inflation runs higher. Even though you're losing purchasing power every year. The brain prefers the feeling of safety over actual progress. And this is amplified by identity. For a lot of Canadians, especially immigrant families, the stable job isn't just a job. It's proof. Proof you made it. Proof the sacrifice was worth it. Proof you did things right. So questioning that job doesn't just feel financially risky, it feels personal. And that's what keeps people stuck. Now, let's zoom into Canada in 2026. First, housing. Affordability is one of the worst in the developed world. In many cities, a single safe salary just isn't enough anymore, which means if you're not building assets elsewhere, ownership becomes harder every year. Second, CPP. Maximum CPP payouts are around $1,300 to $1,400 a month. In many cities, that doesn't even cover rent. CPP was never designed to be everything, but many people are treating it that way. Third, AI. The safe jobs of the past aren't as safe anymore. Automation is changing how work works, slowly but consistently. And the jobs that last are the ones tied to creativity, relationships, and ownership, not just execution. So here's the truth. Stability without growth isn't stability. It's slow decline. I'm genuinely curious. What's been the biggest thing stopping you from investing? Fear? Time? Not knowing where to start? Drop it in the comments. I read every one. Now let's talk about what actually works. This isn't about quitting your job. It's about not relying on it alone. Think of your income like a table. Most people have one leg, their job. If that leg fails, everything collapses. So the goal is simple. Add more legs. First, your TFSA, one of the most powerful tools in Canada. And most people don't use it properly. Inside a TFSA, your growth is tax-free. That matters. Second, index funds. You don't need to pick stocks, just own a small piece of everything. Over time, that works. Third, increase your income. There's a limit to cutting. There's no limit to earning. Even a few $100s a month compounds. Everything comes down to one shift, from consumer to owner. Consumers spend. Owners grow. Once you make that shift, everything changes. You stop asking how to earn more to spend and start asking how to make money work. Your job becomes the engine. Your investments build freedom. Let's keep this simple. Check your TFSA room. Start small. Look at your income. Think about another stream. That's it. If you want simple, clear breakdowns like this about money and investing in Canada, consider subscribing. Here's the thing about safety. It's not bad, but it becomes a trap when you stop questioning it. A ship in harbor is safe, but that's not what ships are built for. Your job got you here. Use it, but don't let it become the ceiling. Because the people building real wealth in Canada aren't hiding in safety. They're seeing clearly, planning, and starting anyway, even when it feels uncomfortable. That can be you. It just starts with seeing things for what they are. I'm Sai. I'll see you in the next one.